Hi guys, it's Angie with Knot by Knot. I wanted to show you all how I made this beautiful Grinch pillow to go with your Grinch blankets. For your supplies, you'll need 2 skeins of red, 1 skein of green, some scissors, polyfill, and of course, your fingers. Okay, so let's get started. First, you are going to make a slip knot. And then we're going to chain 1 into the slip knot. Now you're going to go back over and find a hole there where you made your slip knot. It's going to be kind of tight. So push that yarn up through that little hole where you made the slip knot, and now you should have 2 loops. Go ahead and knit in each of those 2 loops. And now we're going to increase. So what you're going to do is you're going to knit in the first loop, going back across. Now you're going to find that space between the 2 loops, and we're going to do an increase there and knit in the last loop. So there that's what it should look like. And then each time we go back, we're just going to knit back. So knit 3 across. And now we're going to increase again. So you're going to knit in the first loop, increase in the space between the first 2, knit the middle stitch, increase again between these 2 stitches, and knit your last loop. And again, when we're going back, we're just going to knit across. So we're knitting 5. You're going to want to keep your loops nice and tight on this because you're going to be putting polyfill in here, so we don't want any big holes or big gaps. So it should look like that so far. Now we're going to increase. We've got 5. We're going to increase up to 7. So again, loop in the first spot and then increase between the first 2. Knit the second, knit the third, knit the fourth, and then another increase right here between the last 2, and knit the last one. Now we should have 7. And of course, when we go back, we are just knitting our way back. Knit 7 across. Now we're going to increase up to 9. So again, we're going to knit the first one, increase between the next 2 stitches, knit the next 5. Here's 1, 2, 3, and again, keep these nice and tight, close together as you're knitting. There's 4 and 5, increase, and there's our last one. Okay, so now we should have 9. So we're going to knit back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Okay, now we're going to go up to 11. So same thing. We're just going to increase. We're going to stitch the first one, or knit the first one, increase the next, knit across until we get to that last increase, which is going to be between the last 2 stitches, or last 2 loops, right here. Here's our increase. All right, and now we're going to knit back, and that should give us 11. We are going to 16 total across. So we're just going to increase 2 in each row until we get to 15, and the last one we will just increase 1 in that last row. And we'll do it here together. So here we should have 11. And we're going to knit and increase. And then again all the way across to the last, or right before the last stitch, where we will do another increase. And an increase here. Oops, right here. An increase. And then that last stitch. And so you should have 13 as you knit back across. Alright, now increase another 2 will take us up to 15. So knit the first one, increase in the next one, knit across until it's time for our next increase, which is again second to last. And this should be our increase right here. And then knit the last one. Knit yourself back across. You should have 15 now. Of course, you can make this pillow any size and any color that you would like. To make it a different size, you would either increase or decrease the amount of stitches that you have across here. We're working with 16 today. We've got 15 here, and we're going to increase 1 more. This will make 16. So when you're making it your own size, what you're going to want to do is make sure that you end up with an even amount of loops before you start this next part, because we're going to divide it. So we need an even amount of loops on each side. So now we have 16 total. Should be looking like this. Again, you're keeping your stitches close together, nice and tight. We are knitting our 16 back. There's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. Okay, now what we're going to do is work with the first 8 stitches here. So the first stitch we're going to decrease. We're going to put the outside stitch on top of the next stitch. So the first 2 we're going to knit together. So there's our first 2 stitches. So there's 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and the last 2 we are going to also decrease. So here we go, 7 and 8 we're going to put together, and we're going to put the last stitch on top of the first stitch. So we're going to pull it in the other way. There we go. And now we're going to knit back across, and we should have now 6 stitches on this side, 6 loops. Okay, so let's talk about this decrease again. You're going to take the outside loop on top of the inside loop, knit those together, and then we're going to do the same thing again when we get to the other side. Take your outside loop and put it over the inside loop. And you can see that's making your one side of your heart. Each time we just knit back and then decrease again on the first 2 loops, and now the last 2 loops. So now we're down to 2 loops total. Hopefully you guys all followed that. We'll do it again on the other side. So again, just stitch our way back. And then the last 2, again, we're going to knit together, and there's one side. Now we're just going to clip that yarn, make a knot, and there's one side of the heart. Okay, so now we're going to attach our yarn on the other side where we have the other 8 loops. Attach your yarn here. And then we're just going to start right out with a decrease. So pull those first 2 stitches together, decrease those together, then knit your way across until you get to the last 2, which we will decrease again, and the outside on top of the inside one, and decrease those together, or stitch those together. Now just knit your way back to the beginning, and we will decrease again. So you will take this time the outside loop on top of the inside loop, or the first loop over the second loop, knit your way back, again outside loop over the top of the inside, or the last loop over the top of the next loop, and knit your way back. You know, those decreases feel like or sound like they might be confusing, but when you're working with it, you'll see the way that you're wanting that edge to go, and it will actually make more sense and be more natural when you're doing it. But what you're wanting to do is get that nice braided edge on there going in the correct direction. Okay, so we decreased the last 2 together, ended up with 1 stitch. We are tying that off. And now you have one side of your heart. Now you just need to make another one of these. So rewind back to the beginning, make another one. So here you end up with 2. Okay, so now I've taken the 2 and I've tied the ends together, or the loose strings together at all the points, so that I know I have it lined up correctly. And now we're going to put the border on. So you're going to take your green, you're going to start at any point on your heart. I've started here at the bottom, and you're basically just going to pull that first stitch through, create a knot there, and your loop to start with. Now you take your working yarn, and you're just going to get a stitch on either side or on both panels of your heart. You're going to put a loop through both stitches and just pull a loop up. So here again, I'm just putting my finger through both the outside stitches of both panels, pulling a loop through, and then stitching those 2 together. Okay, again, we're going to find a stitch on each panel that line up, pull a loop through, connect those 2 loops, and stitch them together. Again, 2 loops, one on either panel. Pull your green through, hold those 2 loops together, and pull your working yarn through. You can see it's looking even on both sides. You just want to make sure that you keep your panels exactly on top of each other, so as you're putting your border on, you're getting the corresponding stitches to your other panel to keep everything even. I know this makes this video kind of long, but I just want to show you over and over how I'm stitching these together. You certainly can pause it here and work on your own, or just keep following along with me as you do yours. Sometimes it gets a little hard to pull that through. You just got to show it who's boss and get that stitch through there. And you are wanting to keep your loops, as you're making your border, keep your loops a little bit bigger than you did when you were knitting the heart, so that your border will be nice and chunky. Again, you can just continue to work on your own as I go around here. Showing you over and over again, just pull your 2 loops up and then use your working yarn. Bring it through your 2 loops and pull it tight. Like I said, sometimes it's a little hard to get through there, but just be persistent with it. I use my fingernails to kind of grab hold as I'm pulling it through, kind of like you would with maybe a crochet hook or something like that. Right there. And I just loop it through, kind of push it through with my thumb and pull it over, stitch them together. You can see where I've got my 2 panels tied together here in the loose ends. I'm just going to just make sure that those loose ends are tucked into the inside of your pillow. And you do want to make sure when you put your panels together that you put the inside of the panels together, so that you have the outside of the pillow that you knitted showing, and we'll stuff it this way and be able to go ahead and finish it off, so we won't have to turn it again, because it should already be right side out. Kind of a close-up of how I'm getting my fingers in between these, just the outside stitch of the 2 panels. Sometimes it just is hard to pull through there, but again, just be persistent with it and keep it going. Now, I do want to show you, sometimes when it gets a little tricky, it's okay to use a little crochet hook to kind of pull your stitches through. Certainly nothing wrong with that. This is finger knitting, but you know, if you've got another resource available to you that helps you get this border on, certainly use it. Just use it to pull it right through there and continue on. Sometimes I think the border takes longer than making both panels, but it's so worth it. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to stitch until we leave just a big enough hole that we can stuff it with our polyfill. So I'm going to go just a little bit further here. Again, if this is getting too long for you and you know what you're doing, you can either pause it, you can speed it up, and move right on through. Oops, sorry, I kind of went off screen there a little bit. Again, just pulling through and looping them together. Okay, so I got, once I get this last one, I have enough room here to put some polyfill in. So I'm going to go fill my pillow, and I'll be right back. And there it is. Put as much polyfill as you want to make it as fluffy as you want. And then we're just going to go ahead and continue with our border. You're just going to pull your stitches together. Now you might have to adjust your polyfill a little bit here just to get your yarn through. Kind of just push it back in there and grab your stitches and continue to finish off with your border. Close up the hole. Again, you can use your fingers here, or feel free to grab that crochet hook or whatever you can use to get your loops through there. Tuck all of your extra tails inside, and a couple more loops and we will be finished up with this thing. I hope you guys have enjoyed the tutorial and have been able to follow along nicely. I know it was long, but I hope that it was helpful. Okay, just get these last couple in here so we get that nice point at the end. And I think we need one more here. Okay, so we've got all the stitches in there. I got that last one done, tying off the end, pull it tight, and then we're just going to tie the starting yarn and the finishing yarn tails there together. Get them in a nice knot and just tuck them right down inside your pillow. And there's our finished product. Look at that. It just goes so perfectly. Of course, you can use any colors that you want, but this is specifically to go with our Grinch blanket. And it just makes such a perfect addition to give as a gift. What a beautiful set. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Happy knotting!